who is the player you have in mind when you're talking about guys that maybe don't contribute to modern winning basketball?
Don't contribute?
Yeah. Who is it? Who's the guy you're thinking of? That because there's passion behind those words.
Yeah. So it's back to what I was saying about the media paying too much attention to guys, and it's more like comparing them to guys that I think don't get enough attention.
Okay.
So
all right.
this is the first one. This is not necessarily the one that comes to mind, but when you're comparing to another similar mold of player, I think the way the media is throwing Wemby in your face is like, I think it's too soon, because if you look at him, I mean, just look at the guy. He's 7'4", he's got a 8-foot wingspan. He can do it all. But if you actually watch the way he plays basketball, he almost doesn't know what he's doing.
Okay. All right. Okay, so I see what you're saying. So, and especially with how I see how you're kind of looping that in with the modern NBA.
Yeah. So last night, so I bet on the Rockets last night. So obviously I'm sweating out the game. It was a close game. They were favored by 2.5. So I bet the spread. Of course, have to make it close. Why wouldn't it be?
Yeah.
So I'm watching the game. I think the Spurs were down by 4. I think it was 101-97. They have a transition, maybe like a 4-on-3 or something. Wemby takes a 3 from like 5 feet behind the line with like 2 minutes left. It's like, dude, you're 7'4". It's like, I respect it. If it's in rhythm, go ahead, take as many threes as you want. But it's like, he almost doesn't understand situationally what he's doing. And I'm worried that is going to hold him back because obviously his potential is through the fucking roof. The guy he's 7'4", he can guard every position. He can handle, he can shoot.
That's your bedtime.
No, I gotta do some shit, but it's fine.
So he has potential that's like obviously
that's the thing. Like, we've never, people have seen like for the longest time. Every time there's a new guy coming in, we've never seen this before. We've never seen this before. I don't want to hear it anymore, because I was looking at his splits yesterday. He's shooting 43% from the field. He's shooting 22 from 3.
Yeah,
it's like. And the reason I'm saying he's getting too much attention is because no one talks about Chet Holmgren.
Fact, dude. Because Chet is like...
Chet's unbelievable.
He's like a niche version of Wemby.
Well, so what Chet has doesn't necessarily jump off the page. Like, he's like Wemby if you shrunk him by like 3 inches. But the thing is Chet, you watch him play and he understands basketball.
Yeah,
he gets it. You can play in a winning system. He knows what it takes. He knows where he's supposed to be on the court at all times. And I just don't, like, I understand there's certain guys that, like, the media wants you to pay attention to. But, like, I mean, and I hardly carry any value in this, but I think it was, like, the top 50 or top 100 players, by the end of for the 24-25 season just came out. They had Wemby at, like, 11. I was like, dude, his team just won 17 games.
Yeah, he's not quite at the point he would need to be at in order to play the way he plays.
Well, because then if you think about it, Chet, technically a rookie last year, missed his whole official rookie season. He was on the first seed in the West, and that team is not a 1 seed without him. Granted, they have SGA, who's, I'll talk, I can talk about SGA for 2 hours. Mm-hmm. He's unbelievable. But back to Chet, like, that team's not a 1 seed without him.
So, but do you think, imagine...
that team with Victor?
Yeah, I was going to say, if you swapped out Chet for Victor...
I think they're worse. I think maybe they... maybe they have some games where they put up more points, or maybe he has more like ridiculous stat lines. But I think when it comes down to like situational basketball, I'd rather have Chet on the floor, because I know he's gonna, respect that SGA is the best player on the floor. I have to, not necessarily defer to him, but like everything revolves around him. Mm-hmm. And I think Victor has an opportunity that very few young players have to play with an all-time great in Chris Paul. And I just hope he takes advantage of it. I hope he picks his brain for everything, because obviously completely different positions. But you're looking at a guy who's played with fucking Blake Griffin. He's played with, Devin Booker. He's played with, I mean, the list goes on and on. He's played with
DeAndre Jordan, James Harden.
Yep. Plenty of all-time greats. Guys who will be in the Hall of Fame one day. And I think he's third all-time in assists, maybe second now.
Yeah, he's high.
So, yeah, I mean, this is a guy who you can, take a lot away from. But I just, I think not necessarily don't watch Wemby, but pay attention to a guy like Chet, who, Wemby's the favorite for Defensive Player of the Year. Deservingly so. He's a 7'4" freak.
Yeah.
Can guard all positions. But I like what I mean, granted, small sample size, 3 games, but I like what I've seen from Chet a lot.
Yeah, Chet does things in a more they're just kind of what you were saying before, like conducive to winning basketball.
And it's hard to conceptualize because, I like to when I'm talking about this with my friends, like I'll say like casual basketball fans. Like guys will be like, "Oh, did you see what Wemby did? Like he almost had a quad dub." It's like, "Great. How much did they lose by?"
Yeah, I find myself doing that a lot, and but I do wonder though, because I mean, basketball is definitely a star-driven sport, but also at the same time, like now more than not ever, but now more than probably in the past 20 to 30 years, like your team is so important. So you got to wonder, like if, like Chet more so has the perfect situation around him.
Yeah.
Whereas Wemby, I mean, you add a guy like Chris Paul that helps. I like Vassell. I like some of the pieces individually, and I like some of even the fits. But I do think like last year, even a little bit still this year, I think there's just a lack of talent. There's a lack of versatility, and just overall like, when they were building the team out over the past 5 years, they weren't thinking we're probably going to get the 7-4 freak of nature.
No, yeah.
So you have to still build a team around Wemby to make it make sense as he develops.
Yeah. And listen, I'm not trying to hate on the kid. Like you can see he's got unbelievable work ethic. He certainly loves the game of basketball. I mean, cried after losing the gold medal game. Like that's a guy who cares,
Yeah.
You can tell he loves basketball. And I think he's going to be an unbelievable player. I think he's going to, win a couple defensive player of the years. He'll get an MVP or two. But I think when you do, listen, we've had a couple guys come into the league since LeBron that you put this crazy pressure on them, and pressure's good to an extent, but it's like no one since LeBron has actually lived up to that amount of pressure.